Remember a few days ago I had that story about Unity? That game engine that tons of game developers use to make their games, but that on the fly just decided to change their entire monetization model, that they were now going to charge a flat rate per install fee once a game sold past a certain amount, and that game developers were coming out of the woodwork to say not only is this horrendous, but it could put them out of business, and that they really need to reverse, face on this. First of all, here's the updates on this, okay? So, Unity came out and said, well, what we'd like to do is clarify, because we think there's a lot of confusion. And the funny point is, there was no confusion. No one wants this practice to happen, but Unity is spinning it as if, oh, the reason you don't like this is because you don't understand it. Not because it's a horrendous practice that will ruin game developers, but because we just don't get it yet. So they came out with a bunch of posts and press releases basically saying, okay, it's not as bad as you think. First of all, we're not going to charge you for any demo installs. Also, we're not going to charge you for Game Pass installs, okay? And also, if you have charity events, we'll be sure to make that the exception for charity stuff. So basically, all the things that people said were problems, oh, don't worry, we're not going to count all of that. But then came up the topic of malicious installs. So what does that mean? It means someone's pirating your game, which happens all the time, okay? Games get pirated every single day, and according to Unity, every single time a game gets installed, it'll be tracked, and if it gets tracked, it'll count towards your company, and you'll owe them money. But what if someone stole your game? So here's what Unity said about that. Wait till you hear this one, okay? So, they're not going to count those against you, but there's no way they could possibly figure out what's a legit install and what's not at first. So you're going to get a bill as a game developer for every install of your game, but then you can tell them after the fact how many were malicious. They'll just trust you, and then you'll get a refund. Does that sound legit to you? Does that sound like that's a good business practice that would make sense and would be stable for any company? Does that sound, oh, just trust us, we'll believe you, and we'll refund you for the money that you paid us up front? And again, the whole point is that if you're in a situation where you're an indie game dev and you have a lot of money, how are you supposed to afford that, right? Oh, just pay the upfront and then get reimbursed later? No, that will not work, okay? So there's a few other things they've come out to as to say as well, that they claim, oh, it's just because you don't understand. But everyone's basically like, no. We do understand. We get it. We totally get it. We just don't want this practice. You're going to ruin us. And even more game companies have come out and said, I probably said like another dozen or more have come out in the last 24 hours, all publicly stating, if Unity does not scale back this change, we're probably going to have to stop making games in Unity. We'll just have to quit on this engine, and we'll have to go and do other stuff. There's nothing else we can do. We can't afford this model moving forward. We'll have to start over from scratch. So the funny part is, you would think, well, because Unity has all this bad press, the company must have tanked. No, they lost less than 5% of value. They did have an initial little stock drop, and then they actually kind of recovered a little bit. They've only lost about 5% of the value of their company. So you might say, so what would be the incentive then if they don't think like this is going to affect them and they could just pull this off to rip off these game developers? Okay. Well, what's going to happen? Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen. You ready for this? Now, by the way, before I even read you this story, I want you to understand something. I don't support it and I don't condone it. This is a fact. Here's what happened yesterday. Unity had to cancel their own town hall, and they had to close 2 of their offices because CEO John Riccicello said they have received credible death threats. So they literally got like bomb and death threats for doing this. Now, again, I want you to understand something. I don't condone that. I don't support it. But you decided to change your entire business model without consulting any of your customers or anyone in the industry purely on the notion of making more money, i.e. greed, and you could literally screw over entire game dev companies, and you might actually have people lose their livelihood because of your decision. What did you think was going to happen? People would be happy? Are you fucking stupid? Yes, you are stupid. Rick DiCello, whatever the fuck your dumbass name is, you're a fucking moron. And that's why people are reacting this way. They shouldn't be doing horrible crimes, but at the same time, when you're in the process of ruining people's lives for your own personal greedy reasons to satisfy the shareholders, what the fuck did you think was going to happen? People were going to show up with gifts? You're a dunce, and you shouldn't be in charge of any fucking company whatsoever.